Test 49, Section 4, Question 14. In older commercial airplanes, the design of the control panel allows any changes in flight controls made by one member of the flight crew to be immediately viewed by other crew members. Well, that seems good. In recently manufactured aircraft, however, a crew member's flight control changes are harder to observe, thereby eliminating a routine means for performing valuable cross checks. Okay, if you say so. So new planes can't do it this way. That doesn't mean that new planes can't do it. It just means that the new planes aren't doing it in that particular way. So when they say it eliminates a routine means for performing valuable cross checks, I can accept that 100% and just go, yeah, sure, you're not doing it that way anymore. So that eliminated a routine means for doing it, but maybe we have another routine means for doing it. Let's see. The argument concludes, as a result, the flight crews operating recently manufactured airplanes must inform each other verbally about flight control changes much more frequently. Huh. Is that so? You didn't find any other solution? Why not? Or maybe verbal's fine. Maybe you want them to talk more often. I don't know. Ask some questions, probe at it a little bit, understand the argument that they're making, then read the question. The statements above, if true, most strongly support which one of the following? It's a strengthened question. Sorry, no, it's a must be true question, or I guess it's a supported question. It's in that family. It must be true questions. I'm going to pick something safe, boring, conservative, obvious here. If all of that is true now, even the last part, the as a result part, I have to accept that as evidence. When I read it first, I thought maybe that was their conclusion. But the question here, it just says, hey, if the statements above are true, all right, so now I don't care if that's a conclusion or not really. It's just like all that is, I have to accept it as fact. So then what one of these five also has to be a fact? A, how frequently an airplane's flight crew members will inform each other verbally about flight control changes depends in large part on how long it takes to perform those changes. I don't see why that would have to be true based on this evidence. B, in recently manufactured aircraft, the most valuable means available for performing cross-checks involves frequent verbal exchanges of information among the flight crew members. And that stands to reason. I mean, they're doing it. I don't think that they do it if it doesn't have value. They don't seem to have some other, right? In my imagination, I was like, well, what if their computer just tells them? So it doesn't have these, I don't know. Just what about somewhere not on the control panel? What about okay, how do I know that they're not getting voice alerts every time you make a change? Not your voice, but a robot voice every time. So this argument does assume that nothing else came in to fill this gap, right? They're saying, well, because we lost this system on the flight controls, on the control panel, because we can't do it on the control panel anymore, now they must inform each other verbally. So yeah, that's the solution that they came up with. Problem is just most valuable. It sounds really good, but most valuable, we don't know that there aren't, we know that they have to do it much more frequently, but we don't, so we don't know that, so we do know that something else didn't come in and completely supplant the need. But we don't know that there aren't like several solutions. C, in older commercial airplanes, in contrast to recently manufactured airplanes, flight crew members have no need to exchange information verbally about flight control changes. We don't know that at all. We know about newer planes. That they very likely might still talk in the older planes. D, the flight crew members operating a recently manufactured airplane cannot observe the flight control changes made by other crew members by viewing the control panel, we do not know that. It says we don't know that we know that they cannot be viewed. Oh, it just says harder to observe. Right. Harder to observe. Didn't say that went away. It said it's harder to observe. E, how often flight crew members must share information verbally about flight control changes depends in part on what other means for performing cross-checks are available to the crew. And the reason why it's that and not B is that E is just such a softer version of what B is saying. B is saying this is your most important tool. And E says it's, hey, your verbal communication, it is affected by the lack of this control panel notification. We know that as a fact. I mean, they had to change their behavior verbally because they didn't have this thing that they used to rely on. So we know that it changes in part. It's so easy to prove that. And that's why that's the answer to this supported question.